Hey kids, this is Aaron from the podcast that wouldn't die, and Kevin and I use Zencastr. You think you're better than us, that you're using something else? You're wrong. Zencastr's the place to be. Who are you to deny it?
It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code DIEHARD and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time for you to share your story.
Only a fool will give up a chance for a 30% discount.
Card and save Morgan.
What do you mean save Morgan?
Refuse to play, and she dies.
I think we have to play the game. In your predicament, the black character is always the first to die. I will spare your lives if you sacrifice the person you deem the blackest.
The blackest?
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me as always is Aaron.
Hey.
This week, we're discussing the horror comedy classic, The Blackening, starring a variety of actors.
There's a variety of actors.
There's a variety. I recognize the one guy, Jay Farrow, was on Saturday Night Live for a while there. He's promptly killed 5 minutes into the movie. The other actors, I seemed vaguely familiar, but I could not tell you what they were from. Anywho. Each week on the podcast that wouldn't die, I discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genres with a comedic twist. Aaron, what's the latest?
Well, it is my birthday coming up.
Tis.
So that's something to sink your teeth into.
Yeah.
So technically tomorrow's my Friday. Also something to look forward to.
And you don't know what you're doing for your birthday.
Well, I know I'm going to San Diego. That is all I know.
That's all you know. I mean, what could be happening in San Diego? Who's to say?
I don't know. I'm assuming it's hot dogs on paper plates. And
I'll
be sleeping in a bunk bed.
You may. All of the relatives you don't want to see have been invited.
So as long as they're all bringing me a gift, it'll be just like my wedding where there's 300 people and I know 20 of them.
That's pretty standard, right? When the parents get their hooks into it and they're like, you know what, we're inviting the old bridge group and your dad's law partners and
you're paying for this, Biz. The groom had 15 people, so
I'm trying to think. When I will start being invited to my friends' children's weddings, and do I go?
First of all, I have not been invited to my friends' children's weddings, and some of them have gotten married. So how about that? Not many, though.
Right.
A lot of my son is older. It was like me and one other of my friends had kids at the same time. Most of my friends' kids are younger.
I mean, because that's the question. Because for us, it was standard. Mom and dad were going to invite all their crazy cronies.
Right.
That's standard. And they're going to populate the wedding, essentially. Right? Where it's like... it's especially crazy when, as a guy, our folks were like, well, you know the bride's family pays for the wedding. And here are the 75 people who will be attending from our side of the family. It's like,
that's right. We'll host the rehearsal dinner, pizza for everyone, and we'll get the boutonnieres for some of the groomsmen.
For some of the groomsmen. Choose wisely. Like. Choose wisely. Absolutely. True. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about weddings, about the way it's supposed to go. Because ideally, you only have like 2 groomsmen and 2 bridesmaids.
Right.
Ideally.
Not like me, who I just invited everyone that I wanted to make sure was going to be there. So there was 3 groomsmen and like 15 bridesmaids.
So you did that to ensure they would come? Is that what you said?
That's right. I had a maid of honor, a matron of honor. I had junior flower children. We were making people up. I was inviting people left and right. Everybody gonna be there. Yeah.
See, with Becky and I, it was very much like I wanted it to be symmetrical. So if I had, because she has one sister, so she's like, ideally she'd just have her sister up there. I'm like, but I have 2 brothers. I can't just have just the one necessarily. If I have one, I gotta have 2 theoretically. So the moment I said, well, then 2 is my minimum, then she's like, well, then I have to expand it to these 3 people. So now it's 4 people on her side.
Now it's like one of those a Clive Barker puzzle. The more 100%. You twist it, more things pop up.
100%. And it was a whole kettle of fish. It's like, what are we gonna do? I don't know. It all worked out.
I've already figured that out for my next wedding. Ideally,
yes.
When I get married next time, he will be a widower who is childless and also an orphan. So
Heathcliff or whatever's there.
Storm in the Moors. And so then I can just do whatever I want. But I would be throwing out all of that shit. It's going to be just a small get together.
Well, and it's also like
none of those traditions.
As you get older, you're not really going to offend anybody. People are like, I don't really care. Do what you want. But when you're in your 20s, people are up there going, so you picked that person, but you didn't pick me? Interesting.
Yes. Interesting.
So.
Oh, yeah. It's always interesting who's a bridesmaid out of a friend group and who is not.
I went to a wedding with a buddy, and I was not choosing to be a groomsman. Fine. He's like, but what you can do, Kevin, is stand in the parking lot and as people pull up, kind of direct them.
No. I have been to also those weddings, and I've like flown across the country, and now do you want me breaking down tables? I like made myself scarce. I was like, no. We're all adults with good jobs. We ain't 20 years old anymore. 45 years. I think I was like 45. I was like, that shit.
No. I was like in my early 20s when I was asked.
It wasn't last week.
No, it wasn't last week. No,
early 20s, you can forgive that shit because you're
absolutely.
usually on a shoestring. But yeah, no, I was 45 at a wedding, and if we can help take down the tables and all of that, or can we get up extra early on the day of the wedding to go set the whole thing up?
You're hard pass. Count me out.
After I've just flown for an entire day to get there, because I'm not even going to say where, because I've already said too much.
100%. When I start mentioning specifics about the weddings, people are like,
it's
wait a minute.
Get a little specific. I realize I'm reflecting back as I recommend our podcast to people at work that I have talked a lot of shit on this podcast. So maybe it's better that no one in my immediate circle know that I even have a podcast. It's just a mystery.
Aaron doesn't giz a. I mean, you drop bombs on like family members, not like, well, old Aunt Fanny, third cousin, 12 times removed. No. Immediate family members. You're dropping bombs on. Brothers and sisters.
I am, in fact, a shit talker.
Yes.
And as part of the shit talking, I'm always busted. I'm always shit talking while the person is standing next to me. And it doesn't mean that I'm angry with them.
No.
I'm just sharing my biz.
That's half the fun.
Honestly, I've just learned to fall on my sword because it's clearly not going to change. And you're right. You probably didn't need to hear that. Next time I'll whisper it.
That's really what it is.
Because clearly, I'm also like, if you give me a glass of wine, it's like I'm just deaf. Like the wine goes into my ears, I can no longer hear. So since I can't hear,
the volume goes up.
The volume goes all the way. It goes to 11,
100%.
and I am just bellowing hurtful things.
People running out of the room screaming. The
Honest to
usual.
God, there's not a day. For instance, today, a colleague was in a temporary office with me, and we were talking shit about what goes on where I work, blah blah blah. And
Be careful.
I get a little text on my phone that says, there's someone from the district sitting right outside your door. Maybe they don't need to hear all this. I'm like, oh, maybe you're right.
Maybe 100%. Sweet Jesus. So
Yeah,
just understand.
I'll talk some shit this weekend.
100%. That's a family tradition. It's a family tradition.
What are birthdays for without isolating other people?
100%. Let's reel it back in. Why don't you give us your 30-second synopsis of The Blackening?
The Blackening. A group of friends get together for a little reunion, and there's like a racist board game where you're gonna die. And I think the final goal is you're just eventually going to die. But it's a wacko dark comedy. And when Carlton shows up, we already know he's the one responsible for everything.
Oh, really? You figured it out?
The guy that no one got his name right. What's he even doing there? Come on.
Fair.
Yeah, I tapped him right away. At its bones, it was a good idea. Anyway, not everyone dies. They figure it out. The end.
Well, this is important. The reason why I chose this is a movie that I chose. The reason why I chose it is because I was watching, I think I mentioned this before, on Shudder. There's a horror documentary series called Horror's Greatest. And one episode, they mentioned The Blackening. And it's important to mention, we haven't mentioned it yet, that the whole cast is African-American, essentially.
Right. And so the board game is The Blackening. And it's like one of those, I don't know.
It's like Sambo. They call him Sambo, the racist caricature.
The racist character with the big red lips. Right. And it's a board game. Except the first two people arrived are already like tied up and one is dead, and an old TV comes on playing Swanee River.
Like a banjo. Right.
Like some banjo shit. So they gotta get the first 10 questions. I mean, at its bones, it's a good movie. It's like if you could have just tweaked this a little bit, it could have been really funny and scary.
Well, I mean, I had never heard of this movie prior to 2 weeks ago. And I guess it came out 3 years ago, something like that, 4 years ago. But what they showed in the documentary seemed kind of fun. And I know you had some reticence when I called it The Blackening and you had heard nothing about it. You thought it was some racist thing that I was suggesting. Like I do.
I thought it was black like me.
That's what 100%, that's what you thought.
I'm like, is this some Eli Roth situation?
That's exactly what it is.
Super racist.
But I kind of agree with you because it's the problem with a lot of horror comedies is that they're neither fish nor fowl, right? They're neither scary enough to be a horror movie or funny enough to be a comedy. And I wonder if that's kind of the issue with this movie. I mean, to jump the gun a bit.
The idea, it's a good idea. And some of the stuff like the questions, what was the one? It was like there were 5 black characters on Friends.
Yes.
And they came up with the answer. And no, that's wrong. It should have been, I never watched Friends. I watch In Living Color. In Living Color.
Not In Living Color. Oh, it was Living Single. Oh, Living Single.
Single.
I was in college
with Tifa.
Absolutely, Queen Latifah was on that. It was Kim Fields.
It was a spinoff from that Cosby show.
Not a spinoff.
Wasn't it? Nope. I thought it was like a spinoff from when they all graduated from the college show, and then now they're living single.
And yet, no characters or actors are on either of the shows. Interesting.
All right.
When I was in college in the 90s, in the mid 90s, there was a schism where it was like all the white college kids watched Friends and all the black college kids watched Living Single, because they're kind of the same show where it's like people of a certain age, you know, guys and girls living in like adjoining apartments and their kind of fun adventures or whatever.
And their hijinks.
So it was absolutely a thing where it was like, if you were of a certain color, you watch one or the other. So it was interesting. This movie definitely had funny moments. It definitely had funny moments. I think I laughed out loud when the one guy was talking to his friend about how he has a white wife. And he's like, you're in the sunken place, aren't you? Or something like that. Now, and he said it very casually.
King. Wasn't he King? Or
King.
What was that?
King was, yes, the former gangster.
And he got shot in the chest twice, but it was like, went through the same hole, man. So the beginning, when they're all together, I mean, there's a couple of good, but it's just not enough.
It's not enough. So why don't we jump into the highlights? I liked that, you know, they're in the traditional cabin in the woods.
Yes, and they made reference to the fact that they're the cabin in the woods.
Yes, 100%. One thing that I was wondering about, because there were times where it seemed almost supernatural, like the board game seemed supernatural.
Right.
Because it seemed to just go on by itself and ask very specific questions. I know later they revealed like a guy had kind of a remote to kind of, you know, unlock the doors, or, you know, the doors were closing. But even still, it felt like the game was kind of possessed or something. I mean, what was your thought about it? I don't know.
It did seem like it was possessed, because how are they coordinated? So there's 3 bad people.
Correct.
There's one who's pretending to be good and then pretending to be dead, like, and then there were none. The Agatha Christie. How are they all coordinating all of that? That seems impossible. Right.
So essentially, all these people are invited for a reunion, and Clifton, who was a guy who's kind of the nerdy guy.
He's a combination of Urkel. He's like all these bad stereotypes all rolled into one.
Right.
It's a black nerd stereotype. He's half Urkel, half Carlton.
Well, and he
even has like the Urkel voice.
He does. He was the only actor that was really kind of chewing the scenery. You know what I mean? It was like everybody else was playing it now they're in a horror movie, but they were playing kind of realistic, kind of, you know, the way they talked, blah, blah, blah. Where he was clearly playing a crazy, nerdy character. Like with his mouth at a weird angle and his glasses.
Did you have a stroke, dude? What is that?
It was a thing. It was a thing. So I wonder if, because the reveal is, like you said, is that he was the one who set all this up. He's really the mastermind of the murders and all that good stuff. Do you think that he was playing it up so highly in order to kind of throw off suspicion? Like, this is a goofy comic relief character. He can't be the villain or whatever. I don't know.
My whole thing was, like I said, nobody knew his name. Why is he there? Everyone else is very tight. So immediately I was like,
who invited him? Why was he there? And the organizers of the party came the night before, and we saw one of them get killed with the arrow, and the other one is later revealed to have been kidnapped. So they can't say, yes, I invited them. Go ahead.
Because why did the guy get killed when it was the girl who got the answer wrong?
But no, he got it wrong. The question was, if I'm remembering, I'm paraphrasing, it was something like, name a horror movie where the black character survives. Right. And he says, Scream 2. which is a ridiculous answer because Jada Pinkett and Omar Epps get killed in the first 10 minutes of that movie. So, wrong answer. I was sitting there trying to think. I'm like, is there one? And then he said an obviously wrong answer. Go ahead.
It makes sense based on what happens later because she's the one who drew the card. So why would he say in the answer get it wrong? When she was the one who should have answered. But then later on when they play the game, they're playing as a team.
Right. I don't know. I can't explain it because you're right.
I think the overriding theme of this movie is who is black enough.
Right.
Who is black enough? Because it's a theme that keeps reoccurring. In the end, we find out that this guy got shamed away from a spades game because he played so terribly and made a terrible mistake. He didn't know how to play, so they revoked his blackness card.
Correct.
And he was always a recurring theme.
He was always getting teased for his supposed because he was nerdy or whatever.
Right.
And didn't know how to play spades, so he got teased, started drinking, and was in a drunk driving accident where somebody was killed, essentially. Right. So this is his way of getting his revenge on those people. But you're kind of right. It's like you wondered if people even recognized him. It's one thing to just get his name wrong. Because some people, like the first person who sees him at the convenience store goes, "Oh, Carlton." He's like, "No, Clifton," or something like that. And then later, King's like, "I don't know him. Right. Why are you asking me? I don't know him." So
right. Well, then there's another character. Yes. There's a gal whose her mom is white, so she's always being razzed for not being black enough.
Correct.
There's King who has a white wife. Not black enough. And then one of the questions, who's the blackest?
Right. Well, I want to go back a second because the filmmakers were on the documentary I watched it. And what's interesting is the gay character who's gay in real life, I believe. He was one of the writers. And so he talked about how these characters were meant to kind of show certain stereotypes of what you think, that exist in the black community.
Okay.
So because again, there's how the gay character has felt kind of less black because he's gay.
Right.
And so on and so forth. But what's interesting
is... Are you saying that they all have this feeling that they're not black enough?
Or...
like they're being corrupted?
Or, like you said, it's like, are you... Because there was the one character who was like a former gangster. So they talked about how the white wife kind of rang out all the thug out of him or something along those lines.
It was packing heat, even though he was not.
Because they kept turning to him, saying like, "You must have a gun." He's like, "What? I told you, I turned my life around." But then later, he did have a gun all along. That was kind of the joke. But you're right. Later in the movie, when they're all playing together, they seem like they're answering the questions as a team and seem like they're doing all right. Because it says, like, if you need to answer 10 questions correctly, if you ever get an answer wrong, then somebody dies, essentially. And it seems like it's playing fair all along.
Right.
But when
until it's not.
Until the Friends question.
Right.
The Friends question. And I remember, like, I'm not a Friends historian. I would have gotten one out of 5. They were pulling names out left, right, and center. I'm like, good on you. I would never have come up with 5, honestly.
I mean, I watched Friends briefly.
Right.
But it was not my favorite show.
Were you more of a Seinfeld person?
I was eventually. The first year of Seinfeld, I'm like, this show is crap. And then eventually I became a Seinfeld person. But I mean, Friends was okay. I mean, who wouldn't want to live in this awesome apartment in New York that would clearly be worth $1 million?
It's huge.
And they're waitresses.
Like, 100%. No, I think really in my life, there has never been a time where it was like appointment TV. Because you got to remember, in the 90s, there was no TiVo. If you missed it, you missed it. You had to hope you caught up on it on reruns.
We have a little thing called a VCR that needed to be programmed.
Correct. So you'd have to be one of those people who's like, this is appointment TV for me. So if I'm not watching, if I'm missing it, I'm setting my VCR to pick up that episode. I didn't care enough about it to be like,
the only show I had to do that for was American Gothic ran up against the X-Files. So American Gothic would get recorded, but then the X-Files started to slip because I'd be on my phone with Julia and we'd watch the X-Files together. And I'm like, I don't know, we might have to flip this. We might, because American Gothic was such a disturbing and
with
bizarre.
Gary Cole.
Oh my God.
Yep.
That was with Caleb. And if you have never seen that series, it was so freaky.
It was like one season or something, right?
I know, it got canceled. It was dark. It was dark and freaky.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, man. I might have to start recording the X-Files and watching American Gothic.
When TiVo rolled around, I didn't buy a TiVo, but eventually it was kind of incorporated into your cable box or whatever. Then I was making a point to record shows just because it was a touch of a button. I didn't have to burn calories. I didn't have to buy videotapes or anything like that. So back in the day, it was just kind of like when Friends came on, if I happened to be sitting in front of the TV, or again, I'm in college and people are like, oh, let's all go watch Friends. Sure, I'll watch it. But it was kind of like, I definitely didn't really watch it towards the end when like Chandler and Monica got married and all that stuff. That was way
that
past
was all,
my time.
Yeah, that was, the shark had been jumped, run over, and stun gunned.
But I always found it funny. I didn't watch it kind of rolling my eyes, gnashing my teeth. I found it amusing, but it's hard to commit to a sitcom when it's just kind of light. You know what I mean? It's not like some drama where you're like, I got to keep up with what's happening.
I was almost going to complain then. I mean, it's a tiny friend group and they're all sleeping with each other. I'm like,
but they didn't really.
But that's my soap opera where some of the characters have been married to 5 other characters.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's funny. Becky had 2 soap operas she used to really watch, and they both have been canceled in an assignment side of the time.
One Life to Live, Ryan's Hope.
It was. It was Another World. It was. Oh shit. As the World Turns.
Oh yeah.
I used to call it As the Stomach
That was
Churns.
an old one. Had the Stomach Churns.
And Guiding Light. Those were the 2 that she watched. Yes. So
I probably put my toe in most of the soap operas during the day. Which is the one Life to Live? Is that the one with Asa Buchanan?
Yeah.
Young and the Restless.
Young and the Restless was the one. Because everybody like
General Hospital.
Gene watched Young and the Restless, and Vicky watched Young and the Restless.
Still.
Yeah.
And Becca Boo. They still watch the Y and the R. And Victor fucking Newman, who is immortal, is still on there, and so is Nikki.
Victor Newman, who is also star of Escape from the Planet of the Apes. Eric Braeden was in a ton of stuff before he was on Young and the Restless, but that's not it.
And then he just cracked his knuckles and relaxed. All he has to do now is
Cash
talk
those
to that
checks.
voice, sip a cocktail, marry and divorce Nikki a couple of times, look sinister. That's all you got.
Why not? Anywho, so that later they kind of figure out that there's 2 killers on the loose, and they're the crazy like hillbilly twins. One of them worked at the convenience store and has like one eye or something along those lines.
Right.
But when they kill one of them and they discover like in his pocket, he has like, it's like an envelope with like $2,000 in it or something. So it was like $200 a person essentially to murder them. And like each of their names written on the envelope. And they're like, $200? That's all it was?
Like, that's cheap. That's all it takes.
Right. So, but then later it's revealed they were hired by Clifton as kind of a crazy revenge thing. So,
I mean, I will tell you, with the exception of Clifton, I liked all the characters.
Yep.
I thought they were all interesting. I really liked them. It's just the Clifton thing. That was the part that I was like, this is weak.
Well,
it's weak sauce.
They were all good actors playing things.
I like their relationship.
Yes.
They were all interesting. They were fun. You want to hang out with them too. But
you know what it is? I kind of compare it to Coming to America, the sequel that was on
never saw that.
Amazon Prime, where I watched it and I didn't find it particularly funny, but I didn't hate it. You know what I mean? I found it kind of pleasant. Like the experience was kind of a pleasant experience to kind of, see these performances but it wasn't like, I guess the way I could describe it is the comedies.
Describe it for you is you love Gilmore Girls and you wanted to see that extra season when they got married and see your old friends.
Yeah.
But in the end,
but I wouldn't go even as far as that. It's just kind of like there are comedies that are trying hard to make you laugh. So when they don't succeed, you're kind of seeing the seams. You know what I mean? You're kind of like, okay, I see you trying, and by the end I find it more irritating than anything else. Whereas Coming to America and this movie, you almost wonder, it's like, are there jokes? There are some funny moments, but it was just kind of, most of the time it was kind of devoid of the comedy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, the only funny part really is just kind of their banter.
It's their banter. Right. Right.
I mean, it was kind of funny. It's Officer White, and at the end, let me in. They're like, no.
Ranger White, yes.
Ranger White,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes, he was amusing, and they had those moments where at the end, they're like, should we call the cops? And then they all laugh. Like, that's a ridiculous idea to even suggest it.
I like that bit. That was the end.
That was the very end. And then there's another joke after that. Right. Where they called the fire department because they figured, like, well, it should be safe to call them. And then they're promptly hit with a fire hose.
Right.
So that was an amusing moment.
That was all good. It's just,
Right. Well, and the other thing is, like, the killers were wearing this black kind of what am I trying to say? The black mask was made of, I don't know.
It looked like a zipper face. He looked like Slenderman, but it was like weird zippers and.
Right. It was like a vinyl mask essentially with like a zipper. So I didn't even realize until later in the movie that it was also the racist caricature from the game. It was the Sambo mask is basically what they were wearing.
It didn't look like it at all.
It didn't. It wasn't until later that when they kind of got close, because you kind of see it kind of scratchy in the screen.
It looked like it had kind of
like stitching,
stitching all through it.
Right.
I didn't get that at all. That was not.
So that wasn't great. And honestly, whenever you have kind of the killer chasing you, this movie really didn't have enough of that. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like, oh, there's somebody behind the door, or I see a foot, or there's somebody coming up. Whereas I'm used to the traditional Friday the 13th, where Jason is full frame chasing people like the entire movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's only a couple moments.
And it's all crossbows? Is that because there's just neighbors everywhere and they wanted to keep it quiet? Seems like an odd thing.
Well, I think they were trying to do something new with that. You know what I mean? Because there hasn't been a horror movie where the killer used a crossbow before.
Oh, really? Because we just watched a movie called Ready or Not.
that happened to have a crossbow in it, but it wasn't a serial killer wielding it. That's neither here nor there. Do you have any other thoughts about The Blackening?
Yeah, I wish it was a different kind of killer with a different reason. That's the main thing. I really like the games. I really like I think parts of it were really clever. The only part that wasn't clever is like the whole thing that makes or breaks a movie, which is who's the bad guy and what's their reasons.
No, that's true. I mean, would it have been a better movie if it was kind of like a Ouija board kind of situation where it's the game is possessed? I don't know.
Like the house was owned by some old racist, and now the
Maybe.
gods are angry that Airbnb let these people in because the cops pulled over King like immediately. They're like, the so-and-sos don't normally rent the house out to, they're like, black people? No, groups.
It was Ranger White. He's like, well, I'm not a cop. I'm a park ranger. Like, well, you still have. I didn't know park rangers carried a gun.
Rangers go onto private property and are stopping people.
100%. So, no, and we've said this a million times. And part of it is because my soul is dead, where it's like things like this don't really scare me. So that's definitely an uphill battle.
But you could still entertain me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's the thing where it's like, I wanted kind of big belly laughs. You know what I mean? Whenever I see a movie that has like comedic elements, I want to really laugh. And there were a couple moments that I kind of chuckled, but I didn't really have any serious sustained laughs. Now, like I said before, there weren't, overall, it had kind of a pleasant tone because of the acting and the relationships that I appreciated. So
Yes.
it kind of counterbalances that. It kind of makes it overall a pleasant experience without necessarily being kind of really great. You know what I mean? It's like, that's pretty good.
Pleasant is bizarre.
That's the word I use.
Description.
That's the word, and I used it to describe coming to America as well, where it's like, it's a pleasant experience because it's not necessarily uproariously funny, but you didn't get the sense that it was trying to be. You know what I mean? Like there weren't jokes that were falling flat, right?
Well, I mean, it can be a comedy without being like a knee slapper, you know, where you're just enjoying it. But I don't think that is the issue. My issue is it's not funny enough. My issue is they f***ed it up with the killer. So it was kind of like, it just kind of went south. The first half I thought was great. The second half, except for the end, not so great.
Okay, I mean, that's what it comes down to. So if they had a different killer that you liked better, would that have bumped it up a couple stars or what?
Dig this. What if there was no killer and they did one of these things where the people just started disappearing and or they put fake bodies up. And
it's an April Fool's Day is what you're saying?
It's like an April Fool's Day kind of thing, but then the person says April Fool's gets shot with the with the thing, because by then everybody's freaked the f*** out.
I mean, that might be a good idea. Where it starts out as a prank, and the person who doesn't know it's a prank goes on the warpath and kills everybody.
And the reunion, where's so-and-so? So-and-so hasn't shown up yet.
So we're dropping pearls. We're giving Hollywood free ideas.
Let's go.
Let's go. Shall we go behind the scenes?
Let's go.
When Allison is tripping in the woods, Shanika slaps her and says, if you want to be somebody, if you want to go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention. That is a famous line and song from the movie Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit by Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh, that's nice. I don't understand why she was tripping balls on Adderall.
I've never tried Adderall, so does it just make you like really aware?
Isn't it? It's amphetamine.
Right. Who knows? Diedrich Bader plays the park ranger. His badge, his name badge identifies him as B. White.
B. White. That's funny.
The tagline, "We can't all die first," refers to the horror trope of the black character being the first to die.
It's true.
That's actually really clever. We can't all die first.
Yeah, that is
clever. Let's see. Jay Farrow only worked for 2 days on this film, in that opening scene.
Who's Jay Farrow?
Remember the two guys who were there at the beginning of the movie?
Oh!
The couple.
Yeah.
Clifton points out that he uses an Android phone, not an iPhone. This is a
Yes.
dead giveaway.
Superior technology.
This is a dead giveaway that he's the killer because Apple infamously will not allow their products to be used by villains. Interesting.
Get out of that. Well, it's very funny because I've totally heard jackass people say that to me too.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And it's always a pain in the ass when you're doing a group text and there's one Android user in the bunch.
And it peels off every time at work. Every time.
God.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, we moved to a new site at my school. And we started a group text of all the teachers. And that happened where there was one or two Android users. And suddenly now there's 5 threads.
Yes.
And somebody's responding to this thread over here and that thread. And it's just nonsense. I finally had to block them all. I just literally said bon voyage and then blocked everybody.
You could have left the group.
No, it wouldn't let me.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It wouldn't let me. If that's the other thing. If it's a group where they're all iPhone users, you can leave the conversation. You can't if it's a mixed group.
So now, when the text goes out, there's a sniper. I guess poor little Kevin's not going to get that message.
I'm not going to get it. Allison never handed any game piece to Clifton before they started playing the game, but he was clearly shown to have a die piece with him, which I noticed. He had like a little crate. Because each person kind of responded, oh, these are like my earrings. Oh, this is like whatever, some kind of personalized piece. And he seemed to have a dice, and no one referenced it, and he didn't explain
He's the game master.
That's right. Let's see. In the first scene, Morgan moves a portrait of the family who owned the cabin out of the way, on which can briefly be seen a pair of twin sons, and they're the 2 masked killers.
I didn't pay any attention to that.
So let's talk about the cast, shall we?
Let's.
This is directed by Tim Story. You may have seen other things that he's directed, including Fantastic Four in 2005. It's not great. Think Like a Man in 2012.
I did see that.
Barbershop in 2002. And Taxi, the ill-fated Queen Latifah Jimmy Fallon action movie.
I did not see that.
Not great. It taught Jimmy Fallon, I'm just going to do TV from now on.
It's probably for the best.
Probably for the best. Let's see. Allison is played by Grace Byers. You know her from The Blackening in 2022. Empire, 66 episodes from 2015-2018. 5 episodes of Phoenix, which I'm unfamiliar with. And Bent in 2018. Does that ring any bells?
No.
Let's see. Jermaine Fowler played Clifton, the murderer. You know him from Sorry to Bother You in 2018. Coming to America in 2021. He played the bastard son of Prince Hakeem that he comes back to America to see. So there you go. He was in The Drop in 2022 and Judas and the Black Messiah in 2021, which was an Academy Award nominated.
I was going to say that was an Academy Award nominated film.
Let's see. Dwayne Perkins played Dwayne. You know him from The Blackening, 2022. He was a writer on 9 Lives from 2012-2013, 5 episodes. He was a writer on 14 episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And what is this? Are they remaking Clue? And he's one of the writers? Perhaps.
Is that necessary? Because I thought the first spin was pretty terrible. The Tim Curry classic.
You are crazy. I love it. I love it. Anybody else you want to know from the cast?
No.
Diedrich Bader played Ranger White. You know
he was on the Drew Carey Show.
100%.
I used to love the Drew Carey Show.
It was wildly underrated. Drew Carey Show was hilarious. That being said, I did not set my TiVo to watch it. He was in 1999's Office Space.
Yeah.
He was in Napoleon Dynamite in 2004.
Yeah.
He was in something called Meet the Spartans in 2008, which is one of those horrible like parody movies that were kind of coming out all the time.
Oh yeah, Sparta.
He was in Balls of Fury in 2007.
I may have seen that.
I saw it as well, and it's not bad actually. Shockingly enough. Let's look at the rating, shall we?
Yes.
The Blackening currently has 87% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. You know what the audience gave it?
72.
85. Boom, look at that. Let's see. Richard Roper from the Chicago Sun-Times says, with the ensemble cast doing superb work, The Blackening is a horror comedy that packs serious punch. 3.5 out of 4. Disagree?
Yeah.
Does not pack serious punch?
Yeah.
Nick Shager of the Daily Beast says, has a clever hook and next to no clue how to entertainingly execute it.
Boom.
That's shots fired. Let's go ahead and check in on our movie critic at large, ChatGPT's Rex Reed. What does he have to say about this? The Blackening tries to be both a horror comedy and a sharp satire, but it mostly feels like a scary movie sequel that thinks it graduated from film school, with jokes that hit or miss like a killer with bad aim.
Bump.
Boom. Thank you, Rex Reed. Aaron, what is your rating for The Blackening?
I mean, it started off strong. I was into it. I wanted to like it, but it just had a fatal flaw. I mean, like I said, all the characters were great. Just that second half kind of stunk it up. So I am just going to give it 3 out of 5. More Diedrich Bader.
I don't disagree. I think it was, I keep saying this, I think it was pleasant.
You don't even know what that means. The horror movie was pleasant.
Pleasant. This is how
it pleases you. It calmed you.
It calmed me. 100%.
Throwing the bodies into the pit was so like Ready or Not. Was that also calming and pleasing and comforting?
It just, I'm going to say it again. To me, when I describe a comedy as pleasant, it means the vibe was good, but there was kind of an absence of actual jokes, right?
It was a horror comedy.
No, I understand that. I didn't find, because like you said, the comedy comes from the banter between the actors.
The dialogue was
dialogue, because it's not meant to be like an airplane movie or something where it's like bizarre situations are going down. It's just, funny people having funny conversations. But I just felt like it kind of didn't have the jokes. And go ahead. Well, I was going to say, and as a horror movie, it's not that scary. Because I mean, I'm trying to think who dies. Two people die, and then the killers.
Yeah,
like none of the characters die.
What if this was a Jordan Peele film? I think this would have been
much better. Much better.
Would have been much better. I think that was the problem. Well, that and the basic plot problem.
Well, no, it's. I was thinking about this. It's like Nope, for example, where some people feel that's kind of the lesser Jordan Peele,
right?
When they had it's just the banter, it's just the things people say. When people are making their jokes, they hit. They really do. Now you could argue if there were enough of them or not. It was kind of like people just having conversations. Oh, that was a funny thing somebody said. People having conversations. Okay, that was kind of amusing what that person said. It wasn't like joke. It was just kind of conversation with like, oh, somebody said something minorly clever. Moving on down the road.
Let me ask you this question.
Please.
in regard to comedy horrors.
Yes.
What do you name one where you thought it worked?
Well, I guess at the end of the day, I think the best horror comedies they're comedies that happen to take place in a horror setting, in my mind. You know what I mean? It's like they're funny. They're funny, and it happens to be a horror setting, right? There happens to be a monster, there happens to be a killer. But other than that, it's comedy. You know what I mean?
Name one.
I
have one in mind.
You have one in mind?
Yeah, it's fairly recent.
I love Demon Knight. I think that's hilarious. I think Cabin in the Woods is hilarious.
But those are not scary. Those are not scary at all.
But I think that's but that's the thing. It's like I think you kind of
those
have
are just
to
straight
say.
comedies.
But
I
they're
was
horror
thinking
comedies.
Bodies.
Bodies was good. But you could
That's
argue
my Zara sweater.
But that's the
Get
thing.
off my leg.
That's the thing about you could argue Bodies is closer to the Blackening, in the sense that there are long stretches where there's no comedy, where it's just we're now doing scary shit.
We're in a horror film, yeah.
This is now scary time. So and Bodies.
But through the course of the scary, there were funny things.
Well, and Bodies was good because somebody would say something in a very understated way. It was kind of like throwing a grenade, where it's like it doesn't hit you at first what they say,
right? Because
they're not like boom when they'd say something. They would just say it, and then you're like, oh yeah, that was great. It would take you a minute, and you're like, okay. So they're different, but you're right. It's like I think comedy is very difficult. Comedy is
difficult.
Comedy is arguably the most difficult of any kind of dramatic or performance and stage.
I think most people will agree. I think any actor would agree. It's easier to do a Sophie's Choice than to do like a real knee slapper.
To do a real knee slapper, it's hard. It's as people who listen to our podcast know, it ain't easy.
We suffer for you people.
We suffer for you people. I mean, and you may listen to our podcast saying, that was pleasant. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 as well. I think it was pleasant. Not enough jokes. Not scary enough. You're right. Ideally, if I could wave a magic wand for a horror comedy, the scares would be legit, and the comedy would be a knee slapper.
Right.
I just don't know if it's really possible to thread that needle in a super successful way.
Again,
you have to
Bodies.
That's
not American Werewolf in London, because really that wasn't that funny, except for Griffin Dunn. He was the only funny part of the whole fucking thing.
I mean, that's a question. The Howling, Alligator. Are these horror comedies? I think so.
Piranha,
100%.
Anything with a large animal or
a lot of small animals.
Or a lot of small animals immediately disqualified from this conversation.
Fair. Any last thoughts of The Blackening?
I mean, throw it on. What the hell? Maybe I'm wrong, but I know I'm not.
No, look. We've seen some shit on this show. This is not that. I don't think it succeeds entirely, but it's not a nightmare. It's not like you're sitting there going, God, when is this going to be over?
It was almost there.
It was almost there. It was knocking on the door. So there you have it. So thank you very much. We're all over social media. We're on Blue Sky, Threads. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. You can email us at the podcast that wouldn't die at Gmail. We're on YouTube. You may be watching our beautiful faces as we speak. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So don't forget to like, share, rate, and review. Won't you?
Won't you please?
Aaron, what is your social media situation?
Let's just say I'm on the gram. I'm the Cult of Aaron. Join the cult. I also have art on Artsy and First Dibs. Check it out.
Check it out. Next week, we're discussing the science fiction new classic. I believe this was nominated for an Academy Award, by the way, Aaron. Godzilla -1. Boom. How can you watch it, you ask? How can you watch it? It's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, it's free with a subscription. If you don't have Netflix, it's $3.99 on Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Fandango at Home, Plex, $5.99 on YouTube. But if you're going to spend that much, you can buy it for $9.99 on Prime. I would recommend you do that. If you're going to spend $3.99, just spend the $9.99. You'll thank me for it.
I don't know. I still got that $20 Cyrano de Bergerac with the dude from Game of Thrones. That was the worst. I should have demanded my money back. It's
you knew that was shit, Aaron. What are you doing?
I did. Okay, first of all, he was amazing in Game of Thrones, and I loved the story of Cyrano de Bergerac, and I thought it had some spin, and I invited a bunch of people over to watch it with me, only to find out it was no longer free, and you had to buy the motherfucker. Boy, that was a stinko. So I literally have bought only 2 of these movies because we talked about the ethics of buying these fake movies and that you don't really own them. Once you're dead, they're gone. But when I'm dead, my hard copies of Moonstruck will still be here for our nieces and nephews to dig through.
I'm sure.
I've only purchased one. There was the Stinko, Cyrano de Bergerac, and then the Elton John biopic.
Rocket Man?
Rocket Man's one of the greatest films ever.
Okay.
It was better than Bohemian Rhapsody.
I will say this, and this is an issue. This is an issue. Would you rather go buy Elton John's greatest hits and hear him sing, or would you rather hear Taron Egerton, who's a fine singer, fine performer? Would you rather hear him sing Elton John's greatest hits?
Or would you like to go see an actor playing Frederick Mercury who is not doing the singing at all?
And has fake teeth? Has fake teeth in his mouth and can barely talk?
Don't get me wrong. You know, I love Queen. I love Freddie Mercury. But I'm talking about compared to the 2 movies, especially, I got especially sour after that Rami, whatever his name is, wasn't doing the singing. Rami Malek was not doing the singing. No, Rocket Man, superior.
So
better film, better. It's a better film.
So this is a question.
Yes.
If you do a biopic where you're performing as a singer, should you sing?
What? Coal Miner's Daughter?
Yeah.
Coal Miner's Sissy Spacek and the chick from Christmas Vacation.
Beverly D'Angelo played Patsy Cline.
Yes, they were amazing.
They did it. They did all their own singing. Or Jamie Foxx as Ray. I don't think he did the singing. Did he do the singing?
I don't know, but that's a movie I watched once and I was never going to watch again.
Oh, I enjoyed Ray.
I didn't say it now.
You said you hated it. You said you hated
it. Damn you, Jamie Foxx.
You ruined it.
You ruined it. But Rocket Man, I saw it at the theater and I was like, oh my God.
Do you know what? What we like to do each episode is have our friends across the social media webs share their thoughts and feelings. Aaron, what you got?
All right. Apparently all our friends live on TikTok because you people on Instagram and such are not sending me nothing. So I recently posted yesterday, we dropped Maxine, the 3rd installment in the Ty West Freakout. Mm-hmm. And the question was, is Maxine the best? Wybach and Inaz commented, my favorite of the 3 is Maxine.
Okay.
And I wrote to him something and he wrote back, Love the film, how it was done, the old film, hair, makeup, could it have been better? Yes. But it was a killer protagonist ploy. Plus, he mentions there was some kind of a lawsuit around the movie because she kicked the actor in the head off film and was. Did you hear about that?
This sounds vaguely familiar, but I don't remember what exactly happened.
You didn't tell me about that. That makes me mad. Ethan White commented, "Nah, Pearl is and always will be superior." And I can't say that I disagree with that. Pearl, I think, is the best of the three.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
How's that? Is that enough?
I think we're good. I think we're good. So next week we're doing Godzilla -1. Send in your favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, and questions, and maybe we'll talk about it on the show. So thank you very much.
I'm predisposed to hate it. I'm just going to tell you that. I'm already angry, even though I picked it.
You shouldn't be angry. Give it a chance.
Let's do the one. What's the one with the baby Godzilla and Godzilla steps on his tail and he makes a little smoke ring?
What is that? Destroy All Monsters or Monster Island or something? I don't remember.
Zombie Island. Zombie Island.
Could be Zombie Island. So, thank you very much. And be well.
Be well, my friends.